Sometimes, strength doesn't show in what you do, but in what you choose not to do. You don't respond. You don't retaliate. You simply breathe and remain. In a world that tempts us to react to everything, the real mastery lies in stillness, in choosing calm over chaos, clarity over ego. This isn't a call to be silent out of fear, but to be silent out of power. A quiet, grounded power that comes from knowing who you are, what you value, and what is truly worth your energy. This video is not about suppressing emotion, it's about transforming it. If you've ever been shaken by criticism, exhausted by drama, or pulled off course by small provocations, this message is your compass back to center. Because not every storm deserves your attention, and the one who can walk through the fire without flinching walks in true inner freedom. The temptation of reactivity. When emotions demand to take control, you're in the middle of a meeting. You've just voiced your opinion, only to be cut off and coldly dismissed with sarcasm. All eyes are on you. In that moment, a wave of anger surges up. You want to respond. You want to prove you're not weak. You want to say something sharp, but you pause. 1 second, then 2. Inside, a battle is taking place. Emotions scream. Don't let them walk over you. The ego pushes. Say something, right now. But there is another part of you, quieter, whispering, slow down. That part is not weakness. It's the part you've forgotten for so long. Reason. Reacting is the easiest thing to do, but also the fastest way to lose yourself. When you react in anger, you're letting emotion take the wheel. And here's the thing. Emotions, as intense as they are, have no compass. They charge forward without knowing which way is north. But you do. If you live with purpose, if you seek inner freedom, you cannot let every crashing wave drag you off course every time someone throws a stone at you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And when does that strength appear? Exactly at the moment you choose not to react. When you sit still, listening to someone insult you, yet in your mind, you are simply observing. No tension, no shouting. You quietly ask yourself, is this really worth trading my peace and my purpose for? Reaction is what the offender wants. Stillness is what throws them off. Your silence is not surrender. It's an intentional act. It's your way of saying, I have the power to choose my response, and I choose peace. It's not easy. It takes more courage than any comeback ever could. But if you want a life of depth, clarity, and strength, you must learn to pause before you react, because if you don't take control of yourself, someone else will. Have you ever asked yourself, how much of my life have I wasted trying to win meaningless arguments? If you live with purpose and values, then every word, every action must align with that direction. You cannot let a single insult pull you off your path, because the more you react, the more you drift away from clarity, away from the freedom you're seeking. Silence doesn't make you weaker. It proves you're strong enough not to need to speak. Next time you face insult, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, will my reaction in this moment bring me closer to the person I want to become? If the answer is no, then let silence be the most noble response you can offer yourself. Not every battle is worth fighting. Here's a truth you must face. Not every battle requires your participation, and not every insult deserves your response. But it's hard to ignore, isn't it? When someone says something irrational, false, or deliberately offensive, there's a fire that lights up inside, demanding justice, demanding a comeback. The mind shouts, do something. You can't let this slide. But for what? To win an argument you'll forget in a few weeks? To prove yourself right to someone you don't even respect? To soothe a bruised ego just for a moment? You must ask yourself, will this fight bring me closer to the person I want to become? Seneca once wrote, "A wise person does not allow themselves to be disturbed by trivial things." Imagine you're climbing a mountain. Every step has a purpose: to reach the summit, to gain perspective, to grow from within. Then, on your way up, someone at the bottom who isn't climbing, isn't moving forward, throws a rock at you. Will you stop to throw it back? Will you climb down, abandon your journey, just to win a petty scuffle? If you do, you don't just lose time, you lose direction. The person insulting you isn't seeking reason. They're seeking your emotional reaction. They want you shaken, anxious, off balance. And the moment you step into their game, you've given them exactly what they want. But when you choose silence, not out of fear, but from knowing your purpose, you've refused to play that game. You've saved your energy for your own path. You've made a decisive statement: I will not trade my peace and life direction for the thrill of a temporary exchange. Stillness is not softness. It's the wisdom of someone who knows where they're going. A person who lives with intention does not always speak. They listen, they choose, and they understand that attention is a precious resource, not to be offered to cheap provocation. Real drama doesn't lie in shouting matches. It lies in composure, in a gaze that doesn't flinch, in a silence no one understands, in a posture that doesn't waver, even without raising your voice. So next time someone provokes you, ask yourself, is winning this fight worth losing my peace? If the answer is no, then your silence is the clearest declaration of the values you stand for. Reaction versus response. A small line, a big shift. Have you ever been in this situation? Someone insults you, hurts you, makes you so angry your hands shake, and within seconds, you say or do something you regret for the rest of the day. Then you think to yourself, I shouldn't have said that. I wish I had kept my cool. That's reaction. Reaction is instinct. It's an emotional outburst with no filter. It's words escaping before reason enters the room. But response, that's something completely different. Response is a conscious choice. It's when you pause for a moment, look at the situation, and ask, what outcome do I really want from this? Does my response serve the values I live by? A reaction is like a wildfire sparked by a matchstick. A response is like a candle, intentional, contained, guided. When you react, you hand over control to someone else. When you respond, you hold the wheel. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You always have the option of having no opinion. You are not compelled to have an opinion about everything that's said." This is more than advice. It's a gateway to inner freedom, because you'll discover something powerful. You don't need to win every dialogue. You just need not lose yourself. Picture this. You're in a meeting. A colleague throws a public jab at you, uncalled for. Instinct flares up. You want to clap back, but instead you take a deep breath. You look at them, and you choose silence, not because you're weak, but because you refuse to let their emotions drive you. That moment, that pause, is not a reaction. It is a response with weight. The energy in the room shifts. People notice something. You are centered. You have composure. You're not swayed by chaos. And them? They're left alone with the shadow of their own pettiness. Reaction is repetition. Response is authorship. Those who live with purpose don't follow old scripts. They write new ones. Ask yourself, will this response bring me closer to the life I want? Does it reflect the values I live by? Or am I just letting emotion steer me again? Reaction comes from instinct. Response comes from awareness. And in that thin line, you'll know whether you're living by impulse or living by purpose and principle. DONT. Let others steer your life. Have you ever wondered, why do I get so upset over a random comment? Why does my mood fluctuate based on someone else's glance? Why do they hold so much power over me? You're not controlled by the external world. You're controlled by what you allow to penetrate within. It could be a judgmental remark, a disdainful look, a rejection, a cold response. These hold no power unless you grant it to them. You think you're free, but in reality, you're living in an invisible cage, constructed from expectations, biases, and unmastered emotions. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Imagine someone walks into a room and throws out a sarcastic comment. You hear it. Your heart stirs. You want to retort, to prove yourself, to retaliate. In that moment, you've been drawn onto their stage. You're no longer the director of your life. You're merely an actor reacting to someone else's script. And then you ask yourself, why am I always so exhausted? Why must I constantly be on guard, tense, burning myself out to be understood, accepted, recognized? The answer lies here. You're letting others take the wheel of your life. You're living according to the emotions they generate. You're losing yourself chasing invisible control. But if you pause and realize, I don't need to fight every word. I don't have to prove my worth at every moment. My value doesn't lie in their eyes, but in how I face myself. Then you'll witness a significant transformation. You begin to live with clear purpose, rather than merely reacting to others. You feel lighter and freer, because you're no longer bound by thoughts like, what do they think of me? You become more decisive and serene, because you act not to please anyone, but to stay true to yourself. Silence, walking away, or smiling. Sometimes these are the most powerful declarations of your personal values. Remember, every time you react uncontrollably, you lose a piece of your freedom. Every time you're mindful and choose to stay grounded, you reclaim the steering wheel of your life. And the question for you today is, are you driving your life or sitting in the passenger seat of someone else's journey? Clarity doesn't come by chance. There are moments in life when you stand at a crossroads, a criticism that angers you, an enticing offer that distracts you from your goal, an unexpected event that shakes everything you've built, and then you must decide. React or restrain, fight or let go, follow instinct or follow values, hand control over to emotions or retain the choice for reason. That moment defines who you are. Stoicism doesn't teach you to avoid reality. It teaches you to face reality with clarity of thought. It doesn't encourage you to suppress emotions, but guides you to master them, observe them, and then decide whether to let them lead. A clear-minded person isn't someone who never gets angry, anxious, or hurt. There's someone who knows they're angry, knows they're anxious, and knows how not to let those emotions dictate their actions. Clarity doesn't arrive when you're shouting. It comes in the moment you remain silent, when you step back, observe, and don't get swept away by the initial wave of emotion. Imagine being criticized in a meeting. A direct attack on your efforts, dismissing all you've strived for. Emotions surge. You want to rebut, to say they're wrong, to assert yourself. But then you recall, your goal isn't to argue. Your goal is to achieve results, to do your job well, to maintain professionalism, to live according to the values you've chosen. You choose silence, not because you're weak, but because you've learned to distinguish between what you want to do now and what you aim to achieve in the long run. In that moment, you're no longer a puppet pulled by emotions. You become the master of yourself. Clarity isn't a sudden flash of insight. It's the result of consistently pausing, observing, and asking, is this worth it? Does it serve my goal? Does it bring me closer to or further from the values I pursue? Each time you do that, you're cultivating a special kind of strength. The strength to see through the fog of fleeting emotions. The strength to clearly see your path, even when others try to distract you. And it's this clarity that enables you to live with true purpose, not swept up in meaningless battles, not swayed by praise or criticism, not living to please others, but to live in a way that's worthy of yourself. If you've ever found yourself drifting amidst instinctive reactions, remember, you don't have to change the world in a day. You just need to pause for a beat, observe a thought, and decide on a small action that aligns with your values. Each of those clear moments, repeated over time, will shape a strong individual, someone not easily subdued, someone who doesn't live by emotions but by clear goals and unwavering values. Remaining calm amidst chaos. Imagine this. You're walking through a storm. Everything around you is swirling in turmoil. Bad news strikes out of nowhere. The plans you poured your heart into collapse. People you trusted turn their backs. Things you once held on to slip right out of your hands. And amidst all that chaos, you stand still, not because you don't feel anything, but because you understand. If you let fear take control, you'll lose yourself. If you react in haste, you'll be pulled even further from your path. Staying calm in the midst of chaos is a skill, a strength, a quality that Stoicism calls ataraxia, the state of an undisturbed mind, untouched by the noise of the outside world. You cannot control every storm that comes your way, but you can control how you respond to it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If it doesn't touch your soul, it cannot harm you." An event becomes a problem only when you allow it to penetrate your inner world, when you blur the boundary between what happens and the meaning you assign to it. Someone else might panic when everything falls apart, but a person who knows what they live for will pause, take a deep breath, and ask themselves, what truly matters right now? Perhaps it's staying clear-headed to make a wise decision. Perhaps it's protecting a value you refuse to compromise no matter who says what, no matter what happens. Calmness is not apathy. It is the outcome of strengthening your inner core in the smallest of situations. When someone speaks harshly, you don't immediately strike back. When plans fail, you don't spiral into panic. When emotions arise, you don't chase after them like a sulking child. Instead, you take a step back. You look directly at reality, and you ask yourself, what must I do now to remain true to myself? In that moment, you are no longer a victim of circumstances. You become the one choosing how to live, and you begin to see chaos isn't the enemy. It's a test, asking whether you truly live by the values you claim to hold. It's the crucible where lofty ideals are no longer just words on paper, but put to the fire. If you can stay calm through the storm, you will be the one who sees the path through the fog. You won't need to control the world because you've already mastered yourself. And here's the beautiful thing. From that calmness, wisdom arises. When your mind is no longer clouded, the right thing to do becomes as clear as sunlight after a downpour. This is not luck. It is the result of a repeated choice, not to react out of instinct, but to act according to your values. Your values are the compass in the dark. Have you ever found yourself standing at a crossroads in life, where every option feels blurry, every voice around you contradicts the others, and you no longer know what's right or wrong? Nothing stirs more anxiety in a person than a loss of direction. And nothing makes us lose ourselves faster than living without knowing what we're living for. A person without a value system is like a ship without a compass. They may be busy, even talented, but they'll end up going in circles, tossed around by the waves, never truly getting anywhere. They react to every criticism, chase after every expectation, exhaust themselves trying to be recognized, yet still feel empty at the end of the day. Not because they didn't do enough, but because they were living someone else's life. Stoicism doesn't teach us to live by society's standards. It teaches us to return to ourselves and ask, what truly matters to me? You may lose your job, your reputation, even a dear relationship. But if you know what is inviolable within you, you won't collapse. Personal values aren't something you discover once and for all. They're shaped through questioning, trial, and the cost you're willing to pay. Every time you choose to stand by what's right, even when no one applauds, even if you suffer for it, you're laying another brick into that foundation. And then one day, when the storm hits, you won't panic, because you don't need to ask the world what to do. You'll simply ask yourself, does this decision betray my values? If the answer is no, then you move forward, even if someone laughs, criticizes, or walks away. There is a profound peace that comes from living in alignment with what you believe. It isn't flashy, it isn't loud, but it is steady like a rock in a raging river. You no longer need everyone to agree. You no longer need to control the future. You just need to know what you're living for. And in that moment, you'll realize most of your anxiety, tension, and doubt comes from living without an anchor. Your mind is constantly pulled in every direction because you have no point to tether yourself to. Personal values, that's the anchor. They keep you grounded when attacked, clear-headed when tempted, and upright even when the world turns its back on you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Stand firm on your own, or learn to stand firm with the help of a pillar. And if no pillar can be found outside of you, then let your own soul be the greatest support." Listening to the silence within. Have you ever noticed that the moments when you truly hear yourself aren't when everything is noisy, but when the world goes quiet? When the noise of social media fades, when small talk ends, when judgments stop flying, and even that inner voice urging you forward finally falls silent. There's just you and the stillness. That's when you begin to hear what you've spent your whole life trying to ignore. Your real emotions, unspoken desires, and the fatigue that's built up from all the pretending and pleasing. But that moment is also terrifying, because that silence forces you to face yourself without anyone to blame, without any circumstances to hide behind. Just you and the question, what am I really living for? Stoicism doesn't just teach us to master emotions. It teaches us to listen inwardly with stillness and courage. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And sometimes it's the noise inside our own mind that causes the most suffering. We fear silence because in it lies the truth. The truth that we haven't lived aligned with what we believe. The truth that each passing day we're trading something, our peace, our health, our integrity, for things that don't really matter. But in that silence, if you're brave enough to stay, you'll find your direction, a path not imposed by others, a decision not made out of impulse, but born of clarity from the deepest core of who you are, where you don't need to perform or defend. When you learn to sit still with yourself, anxiety begins to soften. You stop chasing every voice, stop reacting to every change. Your mind becomes clear like a still lake after a storm. And in that stillness, wisdom begins to speak. You'll realize you don't need to solve everything right away. You don't need to react to it all. You just need to choose the right thing to do and do it with full awareness. That's the root of decisiveness, not rushing, but acting after you've understood what truly matters. And to do that, you need a quiet place, not somewhere outside, but a space within you, where you can listen without interruption, the courage to live by your own values. There comes a moment, one we all must face, when you have to choose between living by what you believe or living to please the crowd. That moment isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself, but it will split your path in two. You could keep living in your comfort zone, follow others' expectations, smile when you don't mean it, say yes when deep down you know you should say no. You'll be praised for being nice, polite, and agreeable, but one day you'll look back and realize you're living a life that isn't yours. Or you choose another path, a quieter, rougher one, where you dare to stand by your own values. Whether it's honesty, fairness, respect, or kindness, those values will guide you through a chaotic, noisy world. Epictetus once said, "Don't seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Want them to happen as they do happen, and you will find peace." That doesn't mean you should submit. It means you accept reality and act from the strongest place you have, yourself. A person with purpose isn't someone who always knows where they're going. It's someone who always knows what they're living for. And that takes courage. Courage to end a relationship that no longer respects you. Courage to change jobs when you realize you're trading your time for something meaningless. Courage to remain silent when misunderstood because you no longer need to prove yourself. Courage to begin again, even when everything seems broken. Along the way, people may not understand you. Some may walk away. There will be times of loneliness, and you'll question your choice. But eventually, you'll see. A person who lives by their true values always knows where they stand even in the middle of a storm. Clarity doesn't come from knowing all the answers. It comes from no longer lying to yourself, from no longer living someone else's script. When you choose to live by your true values, you don't just walk with freedom, you inspire others. Because quiet conviction has the greatest ripple effect. You may lose the approval of some, but you will gain the respect of the one person who matters most, yourself. And that's the beginning of a life where you no longer have to pretend. A life truly worth living, keeping the fire alive in ordinary days. Here's something people rarely say out loud. It's not the storms that break us. It's the ordinary days, the repetitive days, the quiet ones, the days without applause, without spotlight, without anyone cheering you on. Those are the days that truly test a person who lives with purpose and values. You don't have to climb a mountain every day, but you do need to keep walking step by step, even when no one sees. Clarity and resilience aren't a blazing fire that flares up and burns out. They're a quiet glow that stays alive through long, dark nights. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Do the right thing. The rest don't worry about it." A seemingly simple sentence, yet a philosophy for life. Living with purpose doesn't mean always knowing your destination. It means knowing that every task you complete, every choice you make today, is leading you toward what matters. A glass of water you turn down when you've had enough. A comment you don't respond to because it's not worth it. An hour reading instead of scrolling. An imperfect morning, but you still get up, work, and keep going. That is strength. Reducing anxiety and stress isn't about eliminating pressure. It's about learning to stand still under pressure without being crushed. It's learning to breathe slowly when your mind wants to race in 1,000 directions. Clear thinking doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from knowing what's not worth thinking about anymore, knowing what deserves your attention, and what you need to let go. And decisiveness, it's not about being harsh or stubborn. It's the gentleness of someone who knows where they're going, who knows they don't need to rush, but also don't want to be late, who doesn't need to outshine anyone, but refuses to fall behind their own self of yesterday. If ever you feel lost, remember this. No one can keep the fire alive for you. No one is responsible for you. No one can live your life for you. The truth is, you don't always have to be strong, but you do need enough awareness to know when to rise. Enough stillness to look within and remind yourself, I'm still on the path. And above all, don't forget this. All values are just theory until they're lived. Every day. All goals are just dreams without consistent action. And you are only truly free when you're brave enough to live by what you believe. Even on the days when no one is watching, this is not the end. It's the beginning of a new journey. A journey that needs no validation from the world, only a commitment to live true to your values one day at a time.